everyone. In this era of cost of living crises, should non-profits use a different way to build trust with their communities and their supporters through talking about affordability and cost, so that their work really connects with those who they serve and who support them? Retaining previous standards of living around the world is becoming increasingly difficult for everyone apart from the ultra-wealthy. But non-profits are doing a lot to try to help make people's lives more affordable. Let's find out why we should be talking about this a lot more. Hello everyone, I'm Louise from the Social Strategy Cafe, and it's lovely to have you here. This channel provides tools and tips for strategically developing your non-profit, so it doesn't matter whether you're starting a social enterprise, whether you're running an NGO, or you have a charity. So we all want to enhance our relationships with our local communities, and we're all doing so much to improve lives for the people around us. But are we really talking about it in the most effective way? Grab yourself a cuppa and let's take a look. All around the world we are seeing erosion in real wages, with many households expected to have less disposable income this year than last year. According to the UN Trade and Development Organization, or UNCTAD, people are facing a significant decline in their purchasing power. And if you're in the global south, you will probably find that the poorest people, who spend a much higher proportion of their income on food than those who are more affluent, are finding that the increases in food prices are hitting them even harder. This reality means that what is becoming more important to people is the day-to-day of what they can afford and how quickly money disappears after they've earned it. And the non-profit sector is really shifting their programs to offering economic buffers to their beneficiaries. For example, focusing on projects that are tackling the root causes of the high costs, such as in food and in energy. In the global south, where fuel prices are perhaps more volatile, or where communities may not even have access to a reliable source of electricity, non-profits are helping communities bypass the expensive national grid through solar cooperatives such as the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet. This organisation is helping communities install community-owned solar grids, which is lowering their energy costs by up to 40% compared to diesel generators, and offers price stability, which doesn't fluctuate with global oil prices. And the shift in food programmes is changing from food banks to food sovereignty. Non-profits are supporting climate-smart agriculture, such as the Welthungerhilfe Challenge, which provides grants to local startups that create low-cost biofertilizers, because this reduces farmers' reliance on expensive imported chemicals. Other NGOs are setting up digital platforms that connect small-scale farmers directly with urban communities, so that any middlemen are not able to drive up prices by 30% or more. And there are some really interesting developments in building farmer financial resilience, such as through insurance, which can wipe out debt after a drought. For example, Mercy Corps lead AgriFin programs which combine subsidised insurance with digital loans. If a drought is detected via satellite, the insurance payout automatically clears the farmer's debt, preventing them from falling into debt. And Acre Africa is also supporting smallholder farmers protect themselves from drought and floods through insurance, which is subsidised by development partners. And according to the World Economic Forum, there are some exciting developments in community land trusts, which is protecting land for its inhabitants. A community land trust removes the land from the market, and it is owned by a non-profit, but the community own the buildings. This ensures that even if the surrounding area gentrifies, the homes remain affordable for the local community. So people end up spending about 25% of their income on housing, rather than around 50% through the private rented market. The Caño Martín Peña Community Land Trust is one example. According to the non-profit Catalytic Communities, it manages land for over 2,000 families along a tidal canal. By owning the land collectively, they have secured legal titles for residents while preventing the gentrification that usually follows urban infrastructure improvements. So all of these economic buffer projects are really making huge differences in people's lives. But often in the non-profit sector, we don't talk about it in the same way that people do when they talk about the costs of their lives. Using terms as economic mobility and financial stability, according to Matt Watkins in the Chronicle of Philanthropy, are more about describing aspiration rather than cost, which is what people are dealing with day to day. So thinking about affordability is more in line with how people understand their economic lives, because people are not separating their housing, their children's education and food costs as separate policy domains. People experience these costs as a whole cumulative pressure that shows whether their livelihoods and families feel sustainable, and even whether institutions are trustworthy. So, as NGOs are filling gaps left by statutory organisations, we need to be able to name affordability directly, according to Watkins, or we risk sounding disconnected from the experiences of our communities. Using day-to-day language will also help us connect to our supporters who are passionate about supporting the communities we serve. So what language should we be using? Well, Watkins argues that we should be focusing on costs. So if your NGO works in housing, stop talking about homelessness prevention or housing insecurity and start talking about how your organisation helps families afford housing in the communities in which they work. Talk about how your organisation is making it possible for working families to stay in their homes even when rents increase faster than their wages. If you work in healthcare, stop using terms such as access and coverage and tell your supporters and your communities that your organisation helps people afford doctor's visits, medication and treatment without getting into debt. Highlight how your organisation helps people get medical treatment, not only when they can afford it. If you work in educational training, then instead of using words such as opportunity, focus instead on how your organisation helps people to afford education and training without getting into debt, and that you're helping people on the path to stable incomes that don't use up any savings that they might have. And if you're an NGO that works in the area of food, if you use words such as food insecurity or food access, then it puts more emphasis on the logistical nature of provision rather than illustrating that people's budgets no longer cover the price of their groceries. Remind people that your organisation makes it possible for people and their families to eat without having to choose between heating their homes and paying for other bills. Highlighting what your organisation achieves in terms of affordability will really help you remain current with what your communities and supporters are experiencing. It will help demonstrate that your NGO really understands them and their needs, and so that you are worthy of their trust and of their financial support. Let us all know what you think and whether this change in language is helping your NGO get its message across. And if you have an idea of a video you'd like to see, please let me know in the comments below. Have a great week, everyone.